In 2015, I did a story about a mother who was the main suspect of a homicide investigation involving her own daughter. Her name was Toy, and her 21-year-old daughter, LaToya, went missing after a 1-mile-wide tornado tore through Tuscaloosa, Alabama, causing massive damage and loss of life. But what truly destroyed that family were Toy's lie detector results. And little did I know that 9 years later, I would meet Toy's other daughter, Sanyell, who's found herself in the same situation her mother was in all those years ago. The mother of LaToya, you came here today and you took a lie detector test.
Yes, I did.
Concerning your daughter's disappearance.
Yes.
And we asked you, do you know for sure who was involved in your daughter's disappearance? And you said no. Were you involved in any way in the disappearance of your daughter? And you answered no. Do you know the whereabouts of your missing daughter now? And you said no. And the results for your lie detector test, Toy, the results came back all the same, and they came back that you did not tell the truth.
I did not tell the truth. I knew it. I did not tell the truth. No, Steve, I did tell the truth. I did tell the truth. And my son was with me the whole time. I did tell the truth. Don't let me go, please. I did tell the truth.
You failed for knowing who was involved, were you involved, and where she is at now. That's what you failed for.
I could not, because I don't know.
Toy's results were shocking, and her other daughter, Sanyell, believed that my show finally gave her family the answers they needed. So when Sanyell found herself accused of being involved in her own son's death, she called me for the truth. On April 25th, Sanyell called 911 because her 4-month-old baby was unresponsive. Authorities arrived and took her child to the hospital where he was put on life support. It was determined that his injuries were consistent with abuse. Sanyell's boyfriend at the time was accused of causing the injuries to her son. He was initially charged with aggravated child abuse. However, charges were upgraded to felony murder after the infant tragically passed away. But even though Sanyell was never charged in this case, she finds herself facing rumors that she was somehow involved in her own son's death. And once again, this family came to me for the truth. I'm really sorry about what happened to your son. That's just terrible. When you first see your son was unresponsive, what were you thinking?
On April the 25th, when I first seen that my son was unresponsive, I was devastated. I had just left from dropping my oldest 3 children off at school and daycare. I had went to the grocery store and came home. And when I came home, the adults that was in my house that I trusted my children with approached me at the door saying that my 4-month-old baby was unresponsive. They was like he wasn't breathing. So I was like, what you mean? Immediately I dropped the groceries and went up in the room. When I went inside of my bedroom, my baby clothes were stripped off of his body. He was laying naked on his back in his own puke. So I immediately screamed, yelled, hollered, picked up my baby, ran outside to my neighbor. When I ran outside to the first neighbor, and she refused to do CPR on my baby. So then I had to run to the next neighbor, and then she opened up her door. And when she opened up her door, she immediately grabbed my child and did CPR on him. 3 minutes later, she came out. She said, Sanyell, he's gone. I tried everything I can do, and I don't have no pulse, no response. Once the ambulance arrived, they then found a fatal pulse on my baby and said they had a pulse. They then rushed my baby inside of the ambulance. They took him to the hospital. They stuck a ventilator down his throat, and they immediately flew him to Children's Hospital. While my baby was at Children's Hospital, he was there from April 25th to May the 15th. That day, my life changed forever. It was the worst day of my life, a day I can never and will never forget. Child services was involved. They removed all my children. They then that day wanted to pull the plug on my baby. And I told them, no, I want to see what God would do. I said, I want to see what God's will. I refused to pull the plug on my baby. That's why he stayed on life support that long, for those 2 weeks that he was on there. When I went to the hospital, to Children's Hospital, they had me come in and they explained to me that my baby was beaten and had forced trauma to the head, that he will forever be a vegetable, that how he was laying in the bed is how he was going to be for the rest of his life, even if he did have a small chance to survive. They said he was beaten all across his head from here all the way to the back. They said that his skull was fractured in multiple pieces where they couldn't even be repairable. They said he would never be able to talk, hear, eat, even move. Where he was at was how he was going to be, Steve. They also said that it wasn't caused by no child, it wasn't caused by a fall, it was done intentionally, and that an adult did it. They also explained to me that my baby was shook for 15, 20 minutes straight, and that he went without oxygen to the head for over 13 to 14 minutes, which he was automatically considered brain dead.
Before, like that morning that you went to the grocery store, did you ever suspect that he was being abused?
No, sir, I never expected it at all that he was being abused.
You have 6 other children, right?
Yes, sir.
And they've all been taken away since your son's death.
Yes, sir.
Do you get to see him?
Yes, sir.
But what's it like not having your babies with you?
Steve, it's very painful. I dress it up and make it look good because I don't like the social media trolls. But it's very painful because I have a set of twins and my babies are 5. And the most painful thing was when my daughter came and asked me what happened to my brother. And she called him Big Boy. She was like, he was murdered. And she think that I allowed a man to kill her brother.
Now, your mom came on the show. We showed the clip years ago when I think we first moved out here to Connecticut. She failed a lie detector test for being involved in your sister's disappearance. Did you believe your mother's results in that episode?
Steve, I believed everything you said, and you brought me closure and my family.
So now there's a woman who had you on her podcast concerning the circumstances surrounding your son, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's bring out Jamara.
Sanyell, pretty much I'm here today to find out, did you do what they're saying that, what most of the people are saying you did? Because I gave you a platform on my podcast. And I said, okay, and you know this is my brand, so I'm here to protect my brand at all costs. That's what I'm here for today. Sanyell is popular in the city. Sanyell was popping. She's a very controversial figure. Everybody want to comment on her life, what she doing, what she got going on. So I said she would be the perfect person for my podcast. And when you came on the podcast, you told me you did not kill your son. You was willing to talk about everything, but when it came to the son, some of them questions you evaded.
Yes,
which means you did not answer.
Yes, I didn't invade because at that time I wasn't ready to come out about what physically was done to my child. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to go through
But that
things.
was the whole point of the podcast, was to clear that. You said, I want to come on the podcast to tell the truth because everybody's speaking on my situation. And I saw it firsthand. Everybody spoke on the situation, but I said ain't no better person to tell Sanyell's story but Sanyell.
So
Exactly.
So you knew who she was before she came on your podcast?
Sure.
Yeah, she's like a kind of a public figure where you're from.
Yes, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Sanyell is the talk of the town. She's popular. She's the one, she's popping. What Sanyell got going on, what she doing today, what she think about this situation, this and that situation. Yes, and so, yeah.
So other than she comes on and quite honestly, I have to say, you have 6 kids. Why would you murder one?
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's unusual, but it could happen.
But why she didn't want to answer the questions about the child?
Because at that time, I wasn't
ain't
ready
answer
to
my
discuss
question.
the physical abuse of my child, because that put me in a mental situation as well. Because the moment I got on your podcast,
Right.
and one of them would have made fun of the fact that my child was brutally murdered
They
and
was
the
already doing that,
activities
baby.
that was
They was
going
already
on,
doing that.
I probably would have been at somebody's front door.
Yeah, but they was
So
already
to
doing
avoid
that.
me from actually going into that mental stage, doing
That's why
physically
you didn't
harm
answer
to
the
the
question.
next person, I avoided
Well,
that
that was
particular
my
question.
first red flag.
Did you receive backlash from having her on your podcast?
Oh, I received plenty of backlash.
What was some of the backlash for you for having her on?
Well, pretty much the backlash I received is they told me that they was taking me to court. They was going to sue me
For
because
what?
she spoke on their name because they spoke on her dead child. And so she released that they had killed people, murders. She released about molestations. She released different things about these people. And so they blocked me on Facebook, cussed me out. Bitch, you don't tell me I'm not coming on, all this stuff. And they blocked me.
Social media is a really slippery
Yeah,
slope,
it was
right?
social media where most of the attacks came
Yeah,
from.
yeah.
I did receive personal calls, though. This went past social media.
Yeah.
I told you they called me. And
Yeah,
they
you
told
did.
their side of the story. And their
people
story
believe-
didn't
But
add
the
up
thing
to
about
what
it
you
is,
said.
they don't have a side of the story.
But
How
they-
can they have a side of a story about
stuff
my
that-
child?
the
And
stuff-
Steve, I can't answer what happened to my child because I wasn't there.
I can't
Only
say
thing
that
I can answer is when I came in the door and I found my baby unresponsive and what I did to try to help and bring
but
back life into
you
my
know
child's
the people
life.
I'm talking about.
Yes, and they
And
still
they said
irrelevant.
different things that happened. They said you did
Well,
not
let's
call.
find out.
Yeah.
So your ex-boyfriend, who he's currently charged with felony murder, and he's currently out on bond,
Yes, sir.
which to me kind of blows my mind.
Right.
You're charged with murder and you're out on bond?
Yes,
Right.
sir.
That's another suspicion.
All right, Sanyell, you came here and you tragically lost a son.
Yes,
But
sir.
a lot of people are kind of pointing their fingers at you. So you came here, you took a lie detector test, and we asked you, did you cause any of those injuries to your son? You answered no. Did you see anyone cause those injuries to your son? You answered no.
Okay.
The results came back the same to each question, and it came back that Sanyell told the truth.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, we've been doing this show a long time, and I always say the worst thing that we can talk about on here is when a parent loses their child. I can't imagine that pain. I mean, I tried to understand it, but I don't know if I could live with it if something happened like that to one of my children.
Steve, I'd have been hurt. I'd have been abused. I'd have been molested. I'd have been chained up in rooms all my life. I've been a black sheep of my family. And I'm numb, Steve. I'm numb. When stuff happens to me now, I be like, oh, well, you know what I'm saying? I've been dealt in life, Steve. I'm numb. I'm cried out. I'm dried. The worst thing I could do was lose my child. I try my best to provide and take care of them. I'm a single mom, and I struggle. Steve, I've been calling you for years trying to get closure from my abuse, from me being raped, molested, chained up, beat, all that. I've been through it. Some real lifetime stuff, Steve.
Well,
Oh, no.
I hope coming on today helps you with, people in your town, they're pointing the finger at you. I hope that stops. I hope people can be a little more compassionate towards you and the loss that you suffered. And I hope justice does get served for your son. I hope that whoever is responsible for his murder, that they go to prison for the rest of their life.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Okay.
Thank you.